Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're joined by Glenn Cook. He's the executive editor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, talking about transparency in government, plus Rebecca Goff. She's the Nevada State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. They're here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Come join the month-long celebration during the Carson Valley Inn 13th Anniversary Giveaways with guaranteed $1,000 winners every drawing night and a $13,000 grand prize winner guaranteed. Come celebrate with us during the 13th Anniversary Giveaways at the Carson Valley Inn.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators. From the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City. We're coming to you from the Bank Saloon in the conference center there. And we're pleased to welcome back to the program from Las Vegas, Glenn Cook. He is the executive editor of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
Glad to be back, Sam.
You put out an article personally back in February. And the first line of this is, "Your right to know is in peril. Government's keeping you in the dark." What's going on?
Well, so, institutionally, the Review-Journal has been fighting government agencies across Clark County and across the state to release public information. Nevada has a very strong Public Records Act. The language is quite clear, as are Nevada Supreme Court precedents, that pretty much almost all of government records are presumed to be public. The public's business is supposed to be public. The public's supposed to be able to access this information, and access to this information is critical to our journalistic mission of holding institutions accountable and being able to dig in and tell the stories that people in government don't want told, right? So, but what we have been dealing with over the last few years is just a recognition that no matter how many times we sue governments and win and get strong case law out of the Nevada Supreme Court, governments don't care, right? They ignore the law, they ignore the instructions of Nevada Supreme Court rulings, and they can't be held accountable for withholding public records illegally. One of the reasons why I wrote that column was to launch a new feature in the Review-Journal, and it's been very popular with our readers initially since its launch. It's called "What Are They Hiding?" And we wrestled as an organization with the idea of, well, if we write about the records that we can't get, right, that we're going to be tipping our competitors to the kinds of stories that we're working on. And that had sort of been our philosophy for years. Well, let's just keep fighting, keep hammering away at them to see if we can get the records or if we can get them through sources, right? But the bottom line is the culture in Nevada governments is not changing. Non-compliance with the Public Records Act is a matter of normal business for public agencies. So we've launched this feature to, one, publicly shame them and call them out for breaking the law, but also to educate our readers on transparency laws and to help them understand the kinds of questions we are asking on their behalf, but are unable to get answers to because the governments they pay for are not being transparent and are willfully and shamefully breaking the law.
Isn't that one of the basic tenets of journalism, or at least in the interview, which is sometimes there's more information in the question than there is in the answer?
Correct. And but increasingly, governments don't, and people in government, like, they don't even respond to questions anymore. Like, we call certain elected officials, and they won't even pick up the phone, right? And we've had a couple of stories in the aftermath of Jeff German's murder where we've tried to get people in Clark County government to answer questions about how the situation with Public Administrator Robert Tellis was allowed to fester and become worse and worse. And what we get from the county are, by and large, just canned statements, and as opposed to answers to questions or the kinds of answers that you can only get in a sit-down interview. And when one of our investigative reporters, Arthur Kane, went to a Clark County Commission meeting to try to get people to talk to him, they all literally ran away. They ran away and ran out the back door. And then when he went and sat in the lobby, they never came out. So we're done simply acquiescing to the way that they want to conduct themselves. And we're just going to call them out on a regular basis and make sure voters and taxpayers know who the worst actors are in government, the kinds of records they're withholding, and that ultimately, we intend to get to these stories one way or the other, get to the truth of what's behind the tips that we're pursuing. And if they choose to break the law, sometimes lawsuits take years to resolve. But our column, What Are They Hiding?, is going to be a feature where we can strike a blow early in the process just to let readers know, hey, guess what? This particular institution doesn't want to tell you what they're doing with your money.
One of the scariest things to me, and I'm sure to you as well, was after the death of Jeff German, was that the police wanted access to his phone and his computer, to be able to, in their words, and I'm paraphrasing here, to be able to continue their investigation. But that would have revealed, and did reveal, all kinds of sources. Where did that end up at this point?
So the case is still kind of been bouncing back and forth between the district court and the Nevada Supreme Court level. Most recently, the Nevada Supreme Court returned the case to district court and ordered the district court judge to come up with a process by which the phone could be searched, right? And so it's important to note that when it comes to the Metro investigation and their desire to have unrestricted access to Jeff German's phone and his personal computers, we have acknowledged that there could be information on these devices that is important to the criminal case. But the argument that we've made is we can create a process with an independent hearing master by which independent parties review the contents on those devices, protect the identities of Jeff's confidential sources, and if there's anything that would relate to Robert Tellis or anything of interest to the prosecution or the defense in that case, that those independent representatives can identify that material and hand it over. There's no reason for them to have a window into everything, into confidential sources, into unfinished work product, sensitive work product. They don't need to see those materials. And the fact that Robert Tellis is now representing himself in this murder case, the idea that Robert Tellis would gain access to confidential sources within the office that he used to lead and which helped us report on the initial story that prosecutors say drove him to murder Jeff Pearman is absurd. It's crazy. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the Nevada Supreme Court doesn't let police and prosecutors and Tellis himself do that.
Well, and the chilling effect it would have on potential whistleblowers would be stunning.
Yes. No, there's no question that this case is a serious threat to the flow of information to the public. And, the creation of the What Are They Hiding column, part of the motivation in doing that was also the Gehrman case. It was the fact that authorities, not only do they routinely break the Public Records Act, but now they have this opportunity to get at the sources of one of the most experienced and well-sourced journalists in Nevada. And we've already heard from some of Jeff's confidential sources who have told us, if I'm on that phone and people see that I'm on that phone, it's going to damage my career greatly. So we have an obligation to protect those sources, but also to ensure that the Reporter Shield Law, which guarantees those sources confidentiality, does not suffer the kind of damage that harms the ability for us to tell stories and the ability for good actors to, in a confidential manner, bring forward information that's of the public interest.
Well, and the last note here is that I would think that there are certain people whose lives would be in danger if those sources were revealed.
Well, that's certainly something that we're concerned about. Jeff spent a lot of years writing about organized crime, covering a lot of high-profile criminal cases, murder cases. We're concerned that some of the sources on his phone could face retribution that goes beyond professional and compromises their personal safety. So that's a big part of it too.
Well, as you guys continue to break these stories, we'll welcome you and your reporters to come on the program, and we'll share this because it's such an important topic. It needs to be covered by all media and in support of what's happening at the Review-Journal. Glenn, thank you for doing this as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Sam. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and we'll be right back.
Located in the heart of Carson City, the Bank Saloon is a historic watering hole with a modern feel. With a variety of classic cocktails featuring Nevada spirits, space for private events, conferences, and an incredible atmosphere, the Bank Saloon offers a great location to work and play. Come visit us. Located at the corner of 5th and Carson, we'll save you a drink.
Remember 2010 in northern Nevada, 13 to 14% unemployment, thousands of homes in foreclosure, Nevada's casinos closing? Families in the Reno-Sparks area were hurting. Many were losing everything. Then Story County launched a game changer for our region, a public-private industrial partnership, streamlined permitting, slashed bureaucracy, attracting Fortune 500 companies that made Nevada their home. Story County generated a river of cash to area communities. Economic studies by the state and others for the Gigafactory consistently show positive economic benefits for our region. $4 billion in local wages, $17 billion in consumer spending and economic activity, over $100 million in taxes to Washoe, Story, Reno, Sparks, and Nevada, just for the Gigafactory alone. Story County, improving northern Nevada one industry at a time.
It's the lucky Lexus cash and free play giveaways at Tamarack. Weekly cash and free play winners plus a $20,000 cash winner guarantee. And drive home a brand new Lexus NX30 or walk away with $42,500 in cash. It's a good time to win at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, we are joined by Rebecca Goff. She is the Nevada State Director of the Humane Society of the United States. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
A new gig.
Yes, new job, very exciting.
And you're covering all of Nevada now.
Correct, yes. So I'm in charge. I'm basically the face of the Humane Society of the United States in the state, and my primary focus is policy, working at the state level and local levels to help implement policies that'll help protect our animals.
So let's hit some of the issues that are coming up at the legislature. One of the big ones, even though this particular bill died, I know it's still a high priority for you, which is the wildlife killing contests.
Absolutely. So, we did have a great bill in AB 102, and we were really hoping to get it through, but unfortunately it didn't make it through the deadline. But that's not stopping our fight. Right now, we're kind of taking a moment to reassess and figure out what our next strategy is, but it's really important that the community and our public know that these competitions happen and that we need to end them in our state. They do not follow any ethical hunting standards. It's basically just wanton killing of animals, primarily coyotes here in Nevada, and it's not anything that we want for our state to continue to happen.
Okay, how do you respond to people that say, well, this is culling the herd?
So there's actually not scientific evidence that shows, the best available science shows right now that this does nothing to control predators. If anything, sometimes it does the opposite. When you're indiscriminately killing large swaths of coyotes, you could be taking out the den leader, and that leader is going to be an older, more experienced coyote. He's going to already have learned to stay away from your livestock, to stay away from humans. And then he's going to be replaced with a juvenile who's going to be more desperate to provide food because now there's less in that particular den or that pack. And they also can produce more babies to build up the pack number. So if anything, some of the best available science does show that it almost produces the opposite effect.
Okay, and why did the bill get killed?
A number of reasons. It's one of those kind of complex issues. Certainly the opposition is largely based in our rural communities, and it turned into kind of a culture war, and that's not at all what we were intending to do. Nevada's wildlife belongs to all Nevadans, not just the small group of people who participate in these events. Not even like hunters, like legitimate hunters participate in those, and that only makes up about 3.4% of Nevada's population. But it was turning into a culture war, so that was becoming an issue. And sometimes just politics is politics, There are lots of other bills that were going on, lots of other needs, and unfortunately this one just didn't make the cut.
Another bill that you're dealing with is AB 159, the Jason Brown bill. Explain what that is.
So back in, I believe, 2014, there was a case, a person in Reno had gone around through Craigslist picking up dogs and unfortunately took them to a motel and videotaped himself torturing and slaughtering them. It's been said that it's one of the worst cases of animal cruelty in this state. He was put away for a long time, and this past summer he came up for early release for good behavior, and that exposed a loophole in our laws. People who maim, torture, murder animals, they're not the kind of citizens that we want out on our streets. There's lots of evidence to show that if you are torturing and murdering an animal, odds are the next step is going to be hurting a human. And so these kinds of people need to be kept away. And what this law does is it just fixes that loophole. And so if you are torturing an animal, you won't be eligible for early release.
Okay, and what kind of response have you gotten from the legislature so far?
So far, positive. It started out pretty quiet. It's something that the DA is working on. They reached out and asked for the Humane Society of the United States support, so we're happy to support this bill. And since then, it's really picked up. There's been a lot of media response. I've done a couple interviews in Las Vegas about the issue. I've seen some written pieces as well. And the animal welfare community is starting to rally behind this issue.
And we'll be right back.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, come to you from Carson City. We continue our conversation with Rebecca Goff. She is the Nevada State Director for the Humane Society of the United States. SB 331. Talk about that, because that goes into personal experience with staffing evacuation sites.
Yes, so what this bill does is it would make sure that if there is an emergency, we do need to evacuate, to the best of a community's ability, there will be a facility for people to be able to evacuate safely to with their pets. We know that more and more people are treating their animals like family. And imagine if you're having to evacuate, say, for a fire, and there's nowhere you can go with your pet. Unfortunately, some people take the risk to stay with their animal rather than go to an evacuation site. During the Caldor and Dixie fires, I did work both the Fuji Park site down here in Carson City and the convention center in Reno. And I saw firsthand people not willing to leave their animals. They'd be camping in their car, even though it was like 100 degrees. And if you remember, the smoke that summer was unbearable.
Horrendous,
yeah. You couldn't breathe. So they couldn't have their windows down. So they're stuck in their cars with their large dogs, taking turns, like getting a break in the air conditioning or something, the humans were. And we don't want that for our citizens. We want them to feel like they have a safe place to go during these terrible, tragic situations, and we want their family to be able to be with them, and that includes their four-legged family.
Okay, so what does the bill actually say? What does it mandate?
So it does say that there would need to be a facility that would allow people to stay with their pets. We had something similar in the Reno evacuation center during those fires. Washoe County Regional Animal Services did set up within the convention center a small, a room where people were able to put their pets in kennels. They couldn't still be next to their pets, but they could visit them throughout the day. The pets were indoors, air conditioned, staffed by Humane Society staff and Washoe County Regional Animal Services staff, fed, watered, walked, place to keep them safe. The bill doesn't go into that much detail as far as all of those requirements, but it does say that there needs to be a facility where people can stay with their pets.
What would be the penalties if an organization was not able to do that?
It does,
county or city?
Yeah, it does have a clause about there being within reason. So I know that some of our smaller rural communities were concerned about having a facility that would be able to do that. I don't recall off the top of my head what the penalty would be.
Let's move on then to AB 86, highlighting the collaboration with many stakeholders to update the cruelty statutes. What does that mean in real terms?
So basically this is taking a look at our statutes that discuss, appropriate shelter for dogs. And it started out actually as just clarifying and defining what appropriate shelter means. And through collaboration, it's turned into with a series of amendments. This bill that's really looking at the cruelty statutes that haven't really been touched in maybe 30 or 40 years and updating them to modern standards. So it's going to include, beyond the definitions of what appropriate shelter is, it's also going to include making sure that people don't deprive their animals of veterinary care if it's an extreme situation, making sure that they don't deprive their animals of appropriate grooming to the best of that person's ability, and making sure that they have access to appropriate ventilation. Especially Washoe County Regional Animal Services, they helped work on this bill. They're seeing more and more cases where animals are being in barns or trailers and they're not having any windows or any fresh air to breathe. So that's how that came up. And then it's also going to address the abandonment issues that we're seeing on the rise as well.
And so would this cover also, leaving your dog, for example, in a car, in a mall when it's 100 degrees outside?
So this specific bill does not have language about the what we call like a hot dog law. It does have language about leaving your pet outdoors during like extreme weather situations, making sure that if your pet is outdoors, not only does it have access to housing, appropriate housing, which is going to be a shelter that protects them from the wind, rain, it's going to make sure that it's clean. They're also going to have access to shade separately. So like in the summertime, those little dog glue, little dog glue house things, they get really, really hot. So if the dog doesn't have a separate area with shade, that could become an issue as well.
So what kind of penalties would go along if somebody weren't able to do this? Because my first thought is that people who don't have a whole lot of money may not be able to have the ability to pay for all these things.
Absolutely. There is, we did put in a line, actually the public defenders helped with this as well, put in some information about some exemptions for people experiencing certain levels of homelessness and certain levels of poverty so that they have an opportunity to hopefully fix the issue. It's also going to be dependent on our animal control officers and our advocates to help make sure that they find the resources to help these people. There are great resources available, certainly not enough. I mean, obviously, the animal industry, animal welfare in general, is switching from a model of being extremely punitive to keeping pets with their families for life. Pets for life is kind of the way that it's referred to. So finding ways to give them access to the resources that they might not have. In absence of that, there is jail time if someone is caught, completely negligent and say, their dog has a broken leg and it's just hanging there. That's not acceptable. That's not appropriate. We need to be able to protect those animals.
And that's where we have to leave it. Rebecca
All right.
Goff, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be right back.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you. But we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
Our thanks to the Bank Saloon in Carson City and the Builders Alliance for their help with our coverage of the 2023 legislative session. We'll see you on the next broadcast.